I'm Johnny Vaughan.
I've struck brass, gang.
And this is Steve Brooker, otherwise known as Mud God.
I actually want to change history.
He's one of a select group of licensed amateur archaeologists known as Mudlarks, who scour the banks of the River Thames, searching not for buried treasure, but for hidden history, and whose discoveries have changed our understanding of London forever.
There's stuff in that mud that no one's ever seen before.
On the Thames foreshore lies over 2,000 years of history just waiting to be discovered.
And that's what does it for me.
But larking's no job for those afraid to get stuck in. To wade through time, you've got to be prepared to get your hands dirty, armed with little more than a trowel and a lot of patience.
No!
Wait.
Steve's agreed to share with me his decades of knowledge and experience.
It's cold.
We'll race against time and tide to get to the bottom of London's muddy history.
Oh, yes!
Our adventures on the foreshore will propel us on historical quests that range from the sublime to the painful.
Ow!
To the downright disgusting.
Oh, man, that reeks! Oh, God. Out the shed, out the shed.
As we become Mudmen. In today's Mudmen, there's a new king of the foreshore.
Today is my day.
Steve goes for a gorgeous Georgian makeover, and things get personal as we investigate the 18th century obsession with duelling.
Come for you, Steve. Getting down.
Today we're in Limehouse, East London, on the north side of the Thames. The name itself comes from the lime oasts or kilns established there in the 14th century and used to produce quicklime for building mortar. From its foundation, Limehouse has always enjoyed a much closer relationship with the river than the land, and that's because all around me was once an inhospitable marsh. Over the years, sailors came here and formed permanent communities on the shore, and it became a very international bit of the port. So you've got loads of sailors, loads of the associated industries, sail making, rope making, shipbuilding, and all these things hopefully are going to provide rich pickings once we get down to the foreshore with my mate Steve, Brooksy Brooker. Steve! Right, so Steve, this week you brought me down to Limehouse. Tell me about the place.
One of my favourite places. You've only got to look at it just to know it. It just reeks 17th century. You look down there, it's beautiful.
I've got to tell you, as you point down to Canary Wharf and say that, I don't necessarily
No, to the left, to the left.
OK, got you.
Now, of course, it was a medieval dock, so there's plenty of shipbuilding going on here, rope making. Now, just imagine that you could actually walk from this side to that side via boats.
OK. What else is in Limehouse?
It was London's first Chinatown.
Really?
Yeah, a massive influx of Chinese coming here, importing tea, opium.
Opium?
Yeah, just imagine the opium dens up there.
How come they left here?
Oh, Second World War, it was just bombed to bits down here, so of course they all moved to Soho.
Is that when it all started then? So Chinatown literally moves from Limehouse here and then they go to Soho?
Yeah.
They know about real estate, don't they, eh? Let's get larking.
Today we've got less than 90 minutes before the river comes in and any hidden history is lost. Steve is one of 51 mudlarks who's allowed to dig down 1 metre. My foreshore licence allows me to dig down a measly 3 inches. Steve says size doesn't matter when it comes to holes, but it makes me feel like a junior mudman.
OK, so Steve, am I in for another day here of you finding lots of stuff and me finding nothing? And you going, oh, you'll get the knee pads next week?
I'm actually liking the way you're caressing that.
Really?
Yeah, you see most people here, they get stuck in like this. You're not going to see anything, so what you do is you caress it towards you.
Yeah.
You're looking good.
OK.
And it is, it's just
you're trying to fire me up on a day when I feel I just need something to just, you know...
Fortunately, me and the slightly forlorn Vaughany won't be going it alone. Helping us dig up London's buried past today is Mackie, husband and wife duo GM and Steph, and old Blue Eyes himself, Rock God, and Stolly the Mudhound.
So Steve, is this a really good area for finds? You've had a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, it's very bitty.
Wait. Sorry, Steve. I found my first coin here. I found a coin.
You put that there, didn't you?
I didn't put that there.
I'm sure you put that
I
there
haven't.
because...
Hey, it is... George V.
Yeah, but it's a coin. It shows you're getting your eyes in.
Thank you, the Sailor King. In your face, in my bucket. Done it. Coin 1. Oh, yes. What?
You stuck
all,
there.
All I'm saying is it's a different monarch to the one we're on. For me, that makes it historical.
I suppose so.
Okay. Steve, you're really poo-pooing stuff there, matey.
It seems hidden artefacts are like buses. You wait all day for one, then suddenly a cliche comes along.
Hey, look, a little doll's plate. Thank you. Thank you.
It is as well. You stuck that there,
I
haven't you?
didn't stick that. We're going to get a little look at that. Thank you very much. No,
You've brought stuff with you, haven't you?
I haven't brought anything with me. I've just pulled out a George V coin, and that today is my day.
But it's actually thrown me that you've had that because I don't actually know what to say. Because I would, yeah, in a million years, I'd never thought you'd get that.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, that is really good.
That's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really
Okay,
good.
brilliant.
And also, it basically looks like nothing to the average person.
No. So how old is that?
Well, we can check with this with Jeff, yeah, but this can start, 13th century onwards. So I'm probably,
Oh man, he's found a 13th century children's plate.
but we're probably talking 16th on this. But we'll see what Jeff says. Jeff will tell us.
Okay, we'll see what Jeff says. I'm so made up with this. I mean, that really is why I started mudlarking, to find, genuine little intriguing slices of history like that tells us a bit about how they lived, what went on, and everyday objects. Just fantastic, isn't it? There we go.
And also, it's that feel. How do you actually feel? It's
a buzz.
Yeah,
Steve.
it's a buzz, yeah.
It's a buzz.
While Johnny enjoys his larking buzz, I'm going to check in with the other mudmen to see how they've got on.
Right, Steve. What are you at? What are you at?
It's a bit poor at the moment. Your missus has been down here?
No, but hang on a minute. Actually, they're better than mine, I think.
They're better than mine, actually,
Yeah.
as well. They're quite nice, though.
Want to clean it up a little bit, though. A bit like yours, really.
Yeah, they do. Thank you.
That's nice. Quite a nice back. Oh, it's nice. What's here?
Yeah, of course. Do you know what it is?
It looks like a tomback, doesn't it?
Yeah, dandy button.
Oh, very nice.
So, Mackie, I've showed you mine. Are you going to show me yours?
Well, it's probably a little bit better. I mean, it's definitely bigger than yours.
No, nothing's bigger than mine. That's quite nice. Yeah, a little
nice,
fork. What we should do, we'll tap this off later on,
Yeah.
just like the museum does. We'll tap that off and we'll have a look. Yeah, but that's quite nice.
Quite nice. I've got quite a collection of those now, and that'll go well with it.
What age?
I think it's probably 19th century.
Yeah, maybe a tiny bit earlier. And what else you had up?
Ah, you'll like this.
Not a lot.
Not a lot. But this, to me, it's lovely. It's a pendant. I'm not sure what age, but very, very nice. And the detail on it is phenomenal.
That's really strange. Actually, looks like a Winchester.
Yeah, that is nice.
So it's like a little rifle, but it's actually on a it would have been on a pendant or something. It's actually got a fixing on top there. But it's really nice. I've never seen one before. It's nice. What? Could you head up?
Hello, mate. A few little bits. I told you about those police badges down there.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Again?
Yeah, another one.
I tell you, unbelievable.
Isn't
Right.
it?
How many's that you had up?
That's the third one I've had up. But they're always folded up, always, so it just makes me think that they've been folded up so they could never be used again. And what better place to throw them than in the mud in the Thames?
Where else you had up?
Dandy button?
Hey.
Yeah.
Just imagine that all the way down.
Imagine all the bling.
Yeah, the
that
bling
you'd
of
have
the
had.
day.
Exactly.
Enticing the women.
Yeah.
Yeah, another nice find.
Yeah.
But also, you get quite a few dandy buttons down here. So, again, showing that the area is well, there we go.
There we go.
We go from the dandy button to the wig curler.
To the wig curler. It's only half, unfortunately, but
Yeah, any
still,
makers, Mark?
not that I can see on there. I've not had a good look yet, but
And of course, the whole caboodle would be lovely white wig, white face, beauty spot.
oh, yeah, you're halfway there, really, aren't you?
Such a good beauty spot. Yeah, we could have a picnic on this, but it's it's again just two items referring to the dandy. It's a great area for dandies.
Really good area down here for that kind of stuff.
So what else have you got there? Oh, 303.
303, yeah.
And of course, this has been in the water for the last 50, 60 years.
Careful, it's live.
Yeah, thank you. But hopefully, it should be inert.
Inert.
But of course, you can never tell, so you should always be careful with these things. Place them in your bucket carefully. Maybe take them down to your local police station, or throw them out as far as you
Which
can
is
get
where
them.
that one is going to be going in a short while.
You are a top man. You are protecting the public,
Absolutely,
young
yeah.
children,
Yeah.
and dogs.
And dogs, especially the hound, because she'll think that's a biscuit.
Yes, Stolly will eat that.
She will.
She'll fart and kill somebody.
With precious little time left on the foreshore, it looks like Johnny's on a roll.
What's that? Oh, a trade token! No, it's earlier. It's not a trade token, it's something even earlier.
Yeah, honestly, all right. I'm talking about how things are tracked and everything, but that is a rose farthing.
Is it a rose farthing?
Yeah, so it's 1600s,
Yeah.
but it's So you've actually had out, right? So this is like a
I know,
progression.
it's an extraordinary rock. Oh, yes!
You can tell this has been out a while because of the colouring.
Yeah.
But you were good, because you said 17th century token. You got the same size.
Yeah.
It's a bit warm.
Is that what it is, a rose farthing?
It's a rose farthing,
So what
yeah.
year is that?
I think that's 1625, something like that.
1625.
1600s.
And there's the rose on it just there. This is so exciting, isn't it?
But then you think, right, casual loss, or imagine the ferries going back and forth.
Yeah.
You'd actually come across for a rose farthing.
Yeah.
So, you know, was there a ferry point here?
Can I just ask how much, I know we never talk about value, but what to a collector, and it's a really good one, what's that worth? No, I'm saying it's a good one because I found it. Go on, what's it worth?
We're talking 30 quid.
30 quid?
30 smackers.
Oh, man, treasure. Arr.
Is it treasure or is it the 30 quid
It's
that's society?
treasure, mate. It's treasure because I found it and it's worth something.
And that's what I must admit, that's really good, yeah, because you've had 3 coins together and it proves the point how things attract.
Yeah. I think we're going to carry on in this little place here for a bit. How's this?
No.
Oh, look, the water's coming. I forgot the suspense of the larking.
In the next part of Mudmen, Johnny learns that tide and time literally waits for no man.
Unless you get this out now, that's it, it's all over for you.
Scrape like the wind.
And there's only one subject up for discussion at Mudmen HQ.
But enough about that. Let's get back to meat because that's what's most important to me.
Fine.
Right.
Today, mud god Steve Brooker and I are on the foreshore at Limehouse to unearth London's muddy history. I've come up trumps with my finds so far.
Thank you!
But the tide is creeping up fast and we're running out of foreshore.
I'm just discovering the real adrenaline thing of mudlarking, which of course I've never come up against before because I've never found a rich seam to mine on the beach here, metaphorically, because I've got the tide now, which I'm battling against. How many times have you lost things or lost a great sight to the tide? Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, it does. It happens a lot. But imagine, you'll come back tomorrow and what you thought you had there, or maybe what could have been there, has totally gone. This could be all mud, it could be all sand again, it could be all rock. So unless you get this out now, that's it, it's all over for you. You've probably got a minute, if that.
Move bucket. Just move. Oh no! My sight!
Yeah, that's one of those things always.
Yeah.
Look.
Washer. The coin! We're racing against the tide now. There really is seconds to go before we lose this sight. We're really up against it. And the adrenaline is pumping. Steve, literally, how long have we got before that water there covers this here?
30 seconds.
Okay, let's dig. Scrape like the wind. And this really is the excitement, the pumping adrenaline. The 2 men with trowels and buckets. This is larking at its best. Wild and free. Up against the clock. Time, tide, waiting for no man. Hey! There we go. It's gone. It's gone. My word, it's gone. There we go. Wow, though. Steve, I don't really want to talk about who won that engagement, but is there a new sheriff in town?
No, I hate you. I hate you, Louis. Who's the
does it with the trowel.
Who's the
he
expert?
plunged him. He plunged him. Oh,
That's cheesed me off something big time.
I bet it has.
Safely back on dry land, it's time to find out a little more about our bounty. And there's only one man for the job. The bearded lord of the foreshore, polymath extraordinaire Jeff Egan. Now, there's only 2 things you really need to know about Jeff. 1, the last time he was clean-shaven was when he was still in the pram. And 2, he's a liaison officer at the British Museum, which means he knows his stuff.
So here they are, the Limehouse Lovelies. A good variety of really, I think, intriguing objects here. Everything from a little bit of militaria to some false teeth down there. Lovely coins here. But enough about that. Let's get back to me. Really my first big day mudlarking as a mudman. Go on then, Jeff. Talk to us generally what we found here, and then you can get to mine specifically because that's what's most important to me.
Fine.
Right.
Okay, well, again, a big range of material, mainly relatively late. Focus perhaps on the 18th century here, though there are inevitably earlier things, 17th century. And here we've got a little cluster of, this is a shoe buckle, really rather nice. You can see there's 2 of these false gems surviving.
Are they fake gems, are they?
They're glass, they're paste, I'm afraid, as you would expect, but they're probably imitating something that really was diamond in the aristocracy. But nice that it's still got the gems, and indeed you've got 2 gems that are similar but bigger. Possibly those are going to be from cufflinks of the 18th century. A nice belt buckle there, And these strange-looking objects are both parts. They won't go together, but that's what they would have looked like, and they're a wig curler if you put them together. And that is if you had a wig, as every male did in those days, and probably some women as well, and you wanted to groom it when it became unkempt, you would put it on a sort of a head, have it by your dressing table, and you would groom its curls in these things.
Right.
And sometimes, though it isn't here, you would put pieces of newspaper around to actually hold it, and you get the negative of the newspaper headlines on these. They're made of pipe clay.
So you can actually put a date to it, actually, if you find the paper.
You can be very, very specific if you can find the paper.
The day it was last used. How extraordinary. I mean, that's living history, isn't it?
That's right. And made by the same people as these clay pipes. A number of those are 18th century as well. There's this early 17th century one there for the small...
There's some good bowls there and stems. OK, what else we got here then, Jeff? This padlock.
Yes. Well, let's talk about that.
You love a padlock, so we're going to leave this today because I think it's all about me and Jeff today. What else we got, Jeff?
We do have another one of these farthings, but this is the smallest.
I was kidding, Steve. Jeff and I would love you to look at this. We pre-arranged that over an ale downstairs.
I don't know if I should do it now or not. But I will do, because I love them so much. It says, can you read that? It's a terrible light in here.
It's 1801 London, it says. It's the year, of course, of the Battle of Copenhagen, which Nelson took part in. And it is, of course, the year the United Kingdom was actually made the United Kingdom, 1801, so a very significant year in British history.
Well, let's have a look at what you found, shall we?
Yes, let's.
Things.
OK. Well, first of all, the key find, I think this really did get the envy of the mudmen back there, who are actually sedating themselves pretty well with ale over there, because I think they're gutted that the shambling novice actually got this, which is a small pewter plate for presumably a medieval kid's doll's house.
It's certainly a toy, and it is pewter, but I think it's a frying pan.
OK.
It's missing the handle, and it's an 18th century one.
Oh.
And if you look very carefully in there, you can see what's left of 2 fish, possibly 3 fish.
Do you know, you're absolutely right. There's 2 fish in there, head to tail.
That's what PA.
Oh, no, there's 3. There's 3.
3, good.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So, very nice find.
Yeah, lovely find. What else we got? We've got, oh yes, this is my rose farthing.
That's it?
OK, so tell me about the rose farthing. I gather one of the other larks said they've always wanted to find one.
Well, as you can see, it's obviously very small, so it's a wonderful thing to have found. Did you find this by a metal detector or by eye?
No, just found it by eye.
Purely by eye. Oh, that's very well done. And what you perhaps can't see is that there's supposed to be, this is basically copper alloy, or fairly pure copper, but there's a little V of brass put in it, if it's a real one, to show that it is real. And if that were cleaned, it should show up as a sort of yellowish metal and a V at the top, and a redder metal everywhere else in the coin, on the flan, on the disc. So that'll be interesting to see whether it is.
OK, what else we got here then?
The bling of the day. Down the front, it was basically to entice women.
Well, it's to entice women, did you say?
Of course, yes. It was. It was to bring women to you.
The flame.
It was.
I like the chap. I don't know if my dear sister, but I like the chap with the shiny buttons. Oh, funny.
Beauty spot.
Yeah. OK. Fair
Buttons.
enough. I blush. My dear sister Fanny, I blush for the man with the big buttons. Oh.
So yeah, very Georgian, a really Georgian feel there.
OK. Well, among all this material, this very varied material, as you seem to have got on every single day, and your items here especially, of course.
Mine.
And the ones that have really taken my eye are the 18th century ones. Yours among them, and this little group here. And it's a real eye-opener, a way into the Georgian London and all its fashions.
OK.
Our finds today had a distinctly Georgian slant, so it's time for Steve and I to go our separate ways, armed with enthusiasm and a desire to find out what a couple of fine young bucks like us would have got up to in the 18th century. Coming up, Steve gets transformed into dandy eye candy. Whilst I indulge in a few Georgian pleasures. Booze, gambling and, of course, sex. After a good day's mudlarking at Limehouse, myself and mud god Steve Brooker came up with a treasure trove of artefacts with a decidedly Georgian feel. Now we want some more expert illumination, and for Steve, that means a sojourn into the effete world of the dandy. Armed with our foreshore finds, he's off to meet the Queen of Regency, Lucy Inglis, at the Museum of London and get better acquainted with the golden age of the foppish dandy.
Well, Lucy, we're on the foreshore, Johnny and I, and we have 3 dandy buttons and also a shoe buckle. What do you think of those?
Well, let's do the shoe buckle first of all. I agree with you. I think it's a shoe buckle. I think it's probably for a lady's shoe, the size of it. It would have been very sparkly and pretty when it was new. Then these buttons are... They're not really dandy buttons. What do you mean when you say dandy button?
There's probably about 150 of us that work the foreshore, and we've done it for years and years and years, and we all think these are dandy buttons.
Yes, but it's probably a modern term applied to buttons of the late 18th century, as these are. I think you're getting confused between dandies and macaronis.
Macaroni? I thought that was pasta.
I can see why you'd be confused, because the caricatures of the time, the cartoons, are wildly overdone. So you have these crazy wigs, 4-foot-high wigs and big curls, and on the macaronis.
Well, that's what I think as a dandy.
No. A dandy is much cooler. Dandies tended to be super smart and clean, and favoured very white linen against dark, very fine jackets, waistcoats, coats, and very often wore their hair natural and would never have been seen dead in makeup. During the 18th century, early on when the Grand Tour started, people became familiar with continental ways and the outlandish ways of the French and Italians. And by the 1770s, 80s, 90s, everybody aspired to be beautiful, men and women. So you do get a certain type of men who dressed in an effeminate manner and overdid the buttons and the ribbons and the makeup and the wigs. And they're the macaronis.
So dandies, well looked up to, good-looking guys, intelligent, well followed. But when it comes to the macaronis, we're talking, I don't know, jumped-up poodles, really.
Yeah.
Well, Maggie seemed to think that macaronis were a bit cheesy, but personally, I think they're due a revival. Wig, hair and makeup expert Shelley King has agreed to give me an 18th century makeover.
What I'm using on you today is just a normal stage makeup with a white pigment in it, which is completely harmless. Back in the day, this makeup would have had a base of either mercury or lead, which would have caused no end of problems with people's health. And they would have loved to have used all these products because their skin was in such bad shape.
Diseases were rife and smallpox was an 18th century killer. 1 in 3 people contracted the disease, and if you didn't die, you were left with scars.
You had all sorts of bad complexions for various reasons, also poor diet. So there was lots of covering up to do, and that's where all these thick, lead-based makeups came in really handy.
For me, having this put on, it feels a bit strange. But
Yeah.
I do it at the weekends, of course, but keep
Obviously,
it to yourselves. It's not
yeah.
going out on TV, don't worry.
Ideally, you'd be clean-shaven. So you're not quite as suave and sophisticated as your wig is going to dictate.
Did you mention wig then?
Oh, I mentioned wig.
Well, not that I need a wig, of course,
Obviously not.
because of that lovely thick wedge that's on top of my head at the moment. What kind of wig will I be getting then?
A very expensive wig.
Oh, that sounds like me again.
The finest.
Wigs were the height of fashion and came with a hefty price tag. They were made of horse, human and even yak hair. Each night they were placed on a stand and lovingly curled with the wig curlers that we find washed up on the foreshore. I've just noticed the local cat's coming in. Oh yes, I look like Marge Simpson.
Yeah, it's a bit of a big wig, but that's about the right sort of size that you would have gone for if you were very flamboyant.
So would you actually wash these?
In their day, they didn't wash their wigs very much at all. It was a lot of effort. They used to smell quite bad, so they used to just put products on them, sort of different waters that smelt of different flowers and things were their favourite, or cloves or nutmeg. One of the things that they used to like was when they powdered the wigs, and the powder that they used for wigs was originally wheat flour. To get the flour to stick to the wig, they used to use fat taken from dead bears, so that used to smell quite bad.
In 1798, Prime Minister William Pitt placed a tax on wig powder. So if you powdered, you paid, and the fashion faded. So I think I look really good. So is it now time to take it off?
No, absolutely not. The whole point of this look is to go out and strut your stuff and be noticed.
Brilliant. So just the corridor, the other side of this wall, I shall be... No.
Out in London, go out and be seen.
I feel like a right Wally. Cab! Cab! Do they know I'm posh? Cab! Cab! I just cannot believe it. A Georgian gentleman like myself, 7 foot of pure macho-ness, cannot get a cab. So there's a possibility I'm going to have to walk.
While Steve enjoys a bit of high society, I'm off to find out a bit more about the other side of 18th century life. Was Georgian London all elegant sophistication, dandies, tea rooms and big balls?
No. Then, as now, there was always a dark and seedy side to life in the capital. In fact, by the mid-18th century, the city really was an absolute cesspool. For your pleasure seekers, provided you had the money, the big 3 vices were always catered for. Booze, gambling, and of course, sex.
I'm here in the heart of Soho to meet author and historian Hallie Rubenhold. She's the perfect woman to help me out with a bit of Georgian how's your father.
So, Hallie, we're standing here in Mead Street in the heart of Soho. Very civilised now. What would it have been like back in the mid-18th century, in the 1700s?
Well, actually, surprisingly, it would have been very civilised then as well. This would have been a pretty standard middle-class area filled with tradesmen and artisans and prostitutes who would have lived cheek by jowl with them. These women lived everywhere. Everywhere there was wealth, everywhere there were ordinary people with ordinary houses that they could rent rooms from, they were living there as well.
So how big was the sex trade then?
Well, it's really hard to get a round figure on that because, of course, there were no accurate censuses like we have today. For example, out of a population of 675,000, anywhere from about 15,000 to as high as about 62,500.
10% almost of the population was a prostitute here.
Yes.
That's a party town.
Yes. Well, it depends if you're a man
That's
or
like
a woman.
Vegas.
Yeah, but, you know, it wasn't such a great time for the women.
Yeah. And what kind of people were visiting these girls? I mean, there's so many there.
Everybody in society, men of all ranks and descriptions, were visiting prostitutes. Everybody from members of the royal family to politicians, members of the judiciary, peers, down to apprentices, tradesmen, sailors were visiting prostitutes.
And was this allowed? Was it tolerated? Or was it a bit of a sort of wink, wink, off you go, mate kind of scene?
Well, not only was it tolerated by society, I mean, the wealthy element of society practically underwrote certainly the upper echelons of prostitution.
For the discerning Georgian punter, there was only one man in London to speak to, the self-styled pimp general of all England, Mr. Jack Harris. Time for me and Hallie to go inside so she can give me the lowdown on this nefarious Mr. Fix-It.
So who was Jack Harris?
Jack Harris was called the Pimp General of all England.
Okay.
He was the head waiter at the Shakespeare's Head pub in Covent Garden, which meant that he was also a pimp. So when people ordered their drinks, they also ordered women to go with their drinks.
Okay.
And what certainly made Jack Harris stand out above all other pimps in London was the fact that he carried a pimp's list, or a ledger of all the names of all the available women in Covent Garden and the surrounding areas. And his list ran to, we think, about 400 or so names.
So he had 400 ladies in his stable?
That's right.
And that's a hell of a stable. He must have earned millions.
Yes, well, there is a document that states that he earned as much as the Lord Treasurer.
Harris's infamy reached a peak when a down-and-out playwright decided to publish his private list, and in doing so, he created an 18th century bestseller that ran for 38 years. The list contained such salacious offerings as Nellie Anderson of Dean Street, a squat, swarthy, round-faced wench from the other side of the Tweed, famed for her swearing, drinking and talking bawdy.
So the entries we see on Jack Harris's list, now they seem almost humorous and quite quaint, but this was presumably then as now again a dark business, this one.
Well, they're quite amazing because they are short biographies of these women and their lives. And their lives have otherwise been completely lost to us. I mean, they're the nameless, faceless people of history, the ordinary people, the wallpaper to London life. And we actually have names, addresses, ages, but also background. And so they listed that, but they also listed stuff like how many children she may have had, if she'd been married, if somebody abandoned her, where she's from.
So it really is it's an extraordinary sort of historical record of people otherwise history wouldn't have had any note of at all. In fact, the unmentionables of history.
Yes, absolutely. And not only that, was, you know, a lot of the, well, a large percentage of the women who went into prostitution were poor, and the poor were regarded as really no better than animals. And the women, poor women, were the lowest of the low.
After the break, Steve and I settle our differences Georgian style. Against the clock and the tides, me and mud god Steve Brooker have poked, prodded and scraped the foreshore at Limehouse, with our finds leading us to investigate all things Georgian. Steve went all handbags and glad rags, whilst I scratched beneath the surface of polite society with a sneaky peek of the infamous Harris list. So, now we've taken care of fashion and sex, only one thing left: violence.
18th century London was carnage, with hundreds of thousands of people jam-packed into just a few square miles. But despite its veneer of Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibilities, street violence was actually just as bad as anything that had gone before. Steve! Oh, fast!
That hurt. It wasn't the dirty plebs that were responsible, it was the snobby dandies. And violence was as fashionable as the shoe buckles and the wigs of the day.
That really hurt. No, I'm just saying, Steve, actually, yeah, that really hurt. But look at this now, look at my arm, I'm trying to lift it, look. Get off!
No fashionable gent in the 18th century would consider leaving home without his sword. But far more deadly than his rapier was his sense of honour. Steve and I have travelled to Kenwood House on Hampstead Heath, a magnificent building that was remodelled in the late 1700s and even has its own duelling ground. We're meeting up with duelling expert Joe Pugh to find out how a simple slight could lead to a swift death in the 18th century.
Oh, sorry. So, if I was going to have a duel with Steve, it would start with me insulting him.
Yeah, absolutely.
What level of insult would it be? I mean, what have I got to insult, really? Family?
Could be. It doesn't take very much.
Things he's proud of?
Yeah, absolutely. People fought over perhaps their dogs, their estates, over gambling, their exploits in battle.
Very well. Steve, while wandering the foreshore, I've noticed that the items you pick out while mudlarking are not nearly as good as the other mudlarkers. There you go, Joe. I've poured scorn on Steve's reputation as a mudman. Now you can see he is livid and ready for a duel. Have I destroyed his reputation enough? Would that do it?
Reputations are so important in the 18th century. You rely on them for the credit. Gentlemen never pay for anything straight up. They bide on credit. Military officers are leading men into battle who need to know that they can trust them and rely on their reputation. So it's a very big deal. They can seem quite small matters to us, but it can be, you know, if you won't apologise, then this could be very serious.
Yeah, well, no, on the Thames foreshore, reputation is everything, isn't it?
Big time.
For sure. Why doesn't the insulted person merely punch the other guy's lights out straight away?
Well, obviously he could do that, but that's just assault. That's illegal then, just like it's illegal now. So you need to walk away from this situation and send a formal written challenge. That's a kind of approved way to proceed.
I am livid, Joe. Can we go and write a letter?
Yeah, certainly, absolutely.
Let's go.
Can you spell?
Yes.
Brilliant.
While Steve goes off to find his thesaurus, I'm meeting up with James Hester from the Royal Armoury at the Tower of London, hopefully to find out a little bit more about those 18th century killing machines.
So, James, back in the 18th century, could anyone challenge anyone to a duel? Was it pretty well open season out there?
Not really. It was something that was mainly reserved for the upper classes.
So did everyone walk around carrying a weapon just on the off chance of a duel?
If you were a gentleman, absolutely. A sword wasn't just a self-defense tool, but it was also a part of, it was almost a piece of jewelry. As a gentleman carrying a sword, you were expected to be able to know how to use it as well.
I mean, were there people who were rude and really got very skilled with sword fighting and firing pistols just so they could carry insulting people?
Absolutely. You call them professional duelists who just went around starting fights and racking up loads and loads of duels under their belts.
Why wasn't this just premeditated murder?
Well, technically it was. I mean, it was still completely illegal. I mean, there have been laws against dueling since the 16th century.
Oh, there were?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's just the fact that the people that were making the rules were also gentlemen. And so, given that this is a gentleman's institution, 9 times out of 10, the odds of you actually getting convicted and punished for it were really, really small.
That insult, I tell you, it's really wound me up.
Just like any 18th century gent defending his honour, my challenge to Vaughan is going down in writing.
Right, let's write this letter. Dear...
No, you can't say that. Well, it has to be polite. It's very important to partly to maintain standards. Again, this is a duel between gentlemen, but also because this is also about offence. So if you create more offence by issuing your challenge in an impolite way, then things can get very complicated. It might even be possible for him to challenge you on the basis of the insults that you've delivered in your chat. So, let's perhaps keep it simple.
Come on then.
Dear sir, I'm sure you're sensible of the injury that you've done to my honour, which can admit of only one resolution, with a U. Therefore, be pleased to meet me on the duelling ground at Kenwood House at 3 o'clock. Yours, Steve. Duel's not spelt with a J.
I know that. Jobs are good. Send.
Did every aristo have those kind of cased duelling pistols that you occasionally see in sort of auctions and stuff?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, again, they were a fashionable gentleman's accessory. Whether you ever actually used them...
Hang on a second, sorry. Don't look. That is an email from Steve. He's officially challenged me to a duel.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
What's the procedure? What do I do now?
Well, don't reply. First things first is you have to appoint a second.
Okay.
Because you don't really do anything at this point. It's the job of the second to arrange everything.
Okay.
So this is a person who is the same status in society as you are, fellow gentleman, who, frankly, you would trust with your life.
A friend I'd trust in my life? No, I can't actually think of one. What are you doing this afternoon?
Oh, nothing really.
Right, you're in. What's your first job?
Oh, okay. Well, my first job is to try to put the duel off completely, because there is a way...
No, never. This is going down the wire. This is not going to happen.
All you have to do is apologise. Otherwise, you're risking your life.
No way. I'm not going to apologise to Brooksy. I'm not going to grovel around that toe rag. No way. You're kidding.
Are you sure?
Absolutely positive. We're going to duel. We are going to duel.
So, apology or death? You're choosing death.
Definitely, rather than grovel to Brooksy. Damn right.
All right.
So, the challenge has been issued, the time and venue set, there's only one thing we need.
So these are the traditional duelling weapons from the 18th century, the swords that are popular in the first part of the century, and then the pistols that become more popular from the 1760s onwards. They're designed to be light and flexible, and the stance is something like this.
I'm liking it.
Lunge like that. So do you want to have a go?
Yes, I do, my good second. So it is the teapot stance.
Yeah, bend the knees, and the feet are kind of in an L shape.
And then the lunge forward,
And then the lunge, I'm going to get out of your way.
Vaughanie, this is for you.
By the mid-18th century, pistols had replaced the rapier as the weapon of choice for aggrieved Georgian gents.
So you've picked up the guns here, so this is this comes afterwards, but this is, I suppose, more of a killing machine than the swords themselves?
No, not necessarily, because it's quite difficult to run somebody through just a little bit. So actually the pistols, you've got a very good chance of missing, you've got a very good chance of misfiring. And so pistol duels are actually less dangerous than sword duels.
But yeah, you're saying that, but surely the point of a duel is to actually, to kill somebody, to kill your opponent.
No, that's not what it's all about at all, because a duel is a matter of honour, and so the important thing is that honour is satisfied. The other thing you can do is fight to what's called first blood. So you might agree that as soon as it's visible to the seconds that blood is, on your shirt or whatever, that they will step forward and stop the duel, and the person who's bleeding is the person who's lost.
So if I've cut myself shaving in the morning, and I stand there with it over here, and all of a sudden I reveal my cut mark from my shaving, does that get me out of the duel or not?
Well, I'm shocked, I thought you were a gentleman.
Not when it comes to fighting Vaughan. You just want to kill Vaughan, that's all you want to do.
Unfortunately, health and safety laws mean Steve and I can't actually kill each other. So for us, it's paintball guns at dawn. Well, actually, as I do a morning radio show, breakfast thing, it's more like 2:45. But you get the point.
Now, what's most important, Johnny, you have to stay relaxed, you have to stay focused, you have to stay steady.
What was the second one?
Focused.
Focused. One shot, yeah?
Feeling good? Yes?
Yeah.
One shot. Good.
Coming for you, Steve. Getting down.
Thanks for listening.
Well, we're here at the appointed time, the appointed place from the challenge. There's one last chance to make an apology between the two of you, and we can cut the violence out of this. You should apologise and shake hands.
Yeah.
Since you refuse to apologise, the terms of the duel are this. We, the seconds, are going to check over the weapons, then we're going to pace out the distance, and then at the given signal, you will turn and fire.
Our seconds have agreed. We have 5 paintballs each, and the first person splattered loses.
Steve, can you just help me do a clip?
What Johnny doesn't know is I'm not about to take any chances. So I've done a little something to stack the odds in my favour.
Going down to Chinatown.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Steve, I got you easily there. How did you got? Ow! 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 Steve! Ow! I haven't got any in here. Steve, will you f***ing play? Ow! Ow! How did you have? Oh, man!
That hurts so much, my gut. He shot me all in the gut.
5 f***ing shots.
It's killing me.
Oh, I had 5. He had, Steve, that is, I tell you what, revenge will come at you, mate. No, that was bad.
Look at this, look.
Can I say it?
Go on, say it then.
Can I say, Steve, I think that was really low. You knew I had 5 in mine, you had 30 in yours. I think that's really unfair. I really do. No, that's not, I don't know, we'll ask our seconds, but I don't think that's in the spirit of the duel.
I wouldn't do that to you.
You did. You literally went fully automatic.
Bad loser, bad loser.
No, I went straight. I don't think I lost in that way.
The duel,
no,
the duel is over.
You're a bad cheat.
The duel is over, and I declare that Steve is the winner.
Yay!
And Johnny, I'm afraid you've been pretty horribly massacred.
But on what grounds? You said 1 shot. But I'll tell you this, yeah? You know that wasn't a good victory. If you can go home and be happy with yourself, fair enough.
Yeah, I can.
As me, I could have my head held high if my neck didn't hurt so much. Steve, that's rattling.
No, it's not.
It is. Hang on, wait a second. It's like a bubblegum machine. Steve, do you know what? I had 4 shots.
6?
I suddenly found out you only stopped firing because you literally felt guilty.
I had 6, I tell you. It's only...
Jeez, it was like...
Get a cuddle.
No,
Come
get
on.
off. It was
Come
like,
on.
No. It was like wounded knee up there.
I wouldn't cheat. I wouldn't cheat.
It was slaughter, mate.
That earlobe, it's massive.
I know it is.
I'll kiss it better. Give me a cuddle.
No, get back. Get back, Steve. I'm not kidding.